this gold medal in the lightweight men's pairs.
Became world champion, which was always a goal. Every superstar and hero you had ever looked up to, they're just there on the field with you. Hey, we got your CV. We're looking for a maths teacher and we're looking for a head of rowing. What I'll expect is some good, honest kids to turn up and do some hard training. We'll see where we go from there. Welcome to rowing. I got the phone call and said, look, we have a men's 8 here and we need a coach.
I didn't really know what qualities Tony did bring to the table.
They're also schoolboys and he's Irish. And this is the New Zealand rowing team. I couldn't work out why he was there.
It's going to be New Zealand's gold to lose. 1972 on the Munich course when the Kiwis last won Olympic gold in the men's 8s. This is going to write that story large again.
I like taking sort of raw material, if you like clay, and try to mould it into some sort of sculpture. But that clay and that sculpture is a human being. Born in England, not my fault, but well, we moved around a lot when I was a kid. Dad was an engineer and involved in construction. So we grew up in Ireland, in Wales, Canada, before we moved to Limerick. It was really only when I went to Limerick that I started to play a bit of rugby, of course, as you do when you go to Limerick. I wasn't particularly good at it. Then sort of fortuitously fell into rowing with a friend of mine who asked me to come down to the club. And the very first day I went on the water, I just fell in love with it. I just thought this was fantastic. I felt it didn't require talent, it actually required just dedication and stubbornness and a bit of stupidity. And I had lots of those traits as a teenager. I moved then from Limerick up to Dublin and joined another club up there, Neptune Rowing Club. I wanted to row for the best club in the country. I got to row with my heroes, guys I'd seen out on the rivers and on TV and went in there at the deep end and nearly drowned. You know, it was the deep end. Went out and did my best, but I wasn't really aiming for anything in particular. But the coach came over afterwards and said, look, I think you could be quite good at this. I managed to get selected into a crew there and went off and went to my first Worlds, yeah, which was brilliant. Seeing the people that you used to have on your wall in posters in the lane beside you, it was a bit of a humbling experience. And then when they disappear at the start, when the guy says go, that was even more humbling. A gentleman by the name of Thor Nielsen, he was a Norwegian coach. He had been in charge of the Italian system, the Norwegian, Spanish, and had huge success with them. And somehow he was persuaded to come to little lowly Ireland and spread the gospel. His whole philosophy about sport was sharing knowledge. So at the time that he was coaching us and the Irish team, he was also consulting with the Greeks and the South Africans and working with the Swedes. And we thought this was great. So we used to go to training camps and train with all these people and hop into boats with Greeks and Spanish and Swedes and all sorts of, and their coaches would coach us and our coaches would coach them. And so that whole idea of spreading the knowledge and spreading the love of the sport was instilled really, really early. He was employed by the World Rowing Federation as the development officer. I think rowing went from 60 countries to 160 in his tenure. He just spread it all over the world. So I was very, very lucky to end up under his tutelage. My mum, she used to tell this story. I was supposed to be in school studying for my final year 13, if you like, exams, and she turned up to school to pick me up and I wasn't there. And I told her I was going to be there, so she put 2 and 2 together and figured rowing club. Down to the rowing club and literally grabbed me by the ear and started walking. And I said, Mum, you're embarrassing me. She said, I don't care, you have to go home. And I said, Mum, I'm going to go to the Olympics someday. And I don't remember saying that to her, but she remembers me saying that to her. And she reminded me of that when I got selected for the Olympics, that 10 years previously I'd promised her I would go in lieu of studying. So yeah, Atlanta 96. Yeah, that was the first big one. People ask me what my greatest experience was in the sport, and it was certainly, without doubt, the opening ceremony of my first Olympics. Walking into the stadium and Bill Clinton was up there waving down and realising that there was probably 1 billion people watching you and you were surrounded by every superstar and hero you had ever looked up to. They're just there on the field with you. And then seeing Muhammad Ali light the flame was probably the moment. My best friend at the time, who had got me into rowing as a 15-year-old in Limerick, was a teacher and said to me, "Have you ever considered getting into this business?" And I said, "No, don't be silly," and forgot about it. And then the idea started growing me as I was away on training camps and had a bit of time to think. So I decided I'd sign up for the teaching qualification. Thoroughly enjoyed it, that first year teaching practice. And ever since then, I've not looked on one day of this job as a job. It's never been a chore to come and teach kids. There we were at one of the most beautiful cities in the world, arguably the best Olympics ever held, and way underperforming. I invested too much emotional baggage or importance to that event, almost that the result would define me as a person. When we didn't do well, I felt really low. Actually, that defeat was probably the best thing in terms of my own career, and certainly my coaching career, and probably mentally as well. And I brought some of those lessons distinctly some of those lessons to my own coaching career. When you start a sport, you don't think about Olympic Games. You think about, well, you probably don't think of your sport. You're thinking about your girlfriend, your homework, or what you're having for dinner. But it's just good fun being with your mates. And I deliberately just let all that baggage go. We turned up the trials and won it by miles, and turned up to the first international regatta, won that by miles. So yeah, 2001 was pivotal. It was a pivotal year, good year.
Irresistible, and what a World Championships this has been for the Irish. 2 gold medals yesterday, and surely a third one beckoning now. Never before have Ireland registered such success at a rowing World Championships, but they're coming through now in terrific fashion to take this gold medal in the lightweight men's pairs ahead.
Became world champion, which was always a goal, but sort of set some ideas and some theories in stone for me as a coach and as a person, really.
So where now for these Irish lightweights? A lightweight double scull, or perhaps a lightweight 4? Surely, Dan, they've got to have a go for an Olympic medal in Athens.
The next year then was 2002, and that was a tough year, and that taught me a lot as well, because Mum got cancer that year and I moved back, and there was a whole lot of stuff going on, political stuff in Ireland as well, and became quite stressed and quite ill a few times through that year. Now Thor, my coach at the time, again, said, "I think you should stop." And I said, "What are you talking? I'm world champion." And we had just won our first big regatta of the year again. We were unbeaten for a year and a half at that stage. I said, "That's stupid, why would I stop?" He said, "No, I think you should stop. You should hang up your oars now. It's not good for you." And I couldn't see the wood for the trees, what it was doing to me physically and probably emotionally as well. So all these outside stresses were impinging on what I was trying to do. And we got to the World Champs and I got sick again. And we got to the final. And to this day, I don't remember the final. We came last in the final. I ended up in the medical tent with an IV in my arm because I was dehydrated. And for the next year, I could not walk upstairs without my heart rate going up to about 200. So it was one of those overtraining type syndrome things. So that was it. I went, being a world champion, making the final that was it, stopped right there and then in that hospital bed in Seville in 2002. And that was the end of my rowing career. Thor was right. I should have stopped. He came over to me and said to me, "You idiot," in his Norwegian accent. "I'm not going to coach you again if you decide to row again." And I said, "No, fair enough. I don't really feel like rowing again anyway." And he said, "But here's the plan. How about you come coach with me on the national team next week?" So I went directly from rowing with people on the team to coaching them 1 week later, which was, I'd done some coaching with schools and universities, but just part-time stuff. But to be asked to coach the national team like that was quite special. You know, the coach-athlete, that was not going to work, that sort of a relationship, because, you know, I didn't know any more about rowing or about life than they did. So we had to kind of draw that out from each other and basically go forward as a team rather than coach-athlete. That was a big learning curve, how to approach people who knew you so well. Got to go to the World Championships a couple of years and then go to the Olympics in Athens in 2004. And I felt a fraud, I really did. You know what I mean, like 2 years after out of the national team, and suddenly you're elevated into this position. You get to wear the blazer and the badge and all that stuff. And the boys, they did well. I did feel like I was handed it on a plate, and I hadn't really gone through my standard apprenticeship like everybody else does. So go club, junior, under 23, national team, Olympics, which for everybody, for most people, takes years. And I had suddenly been given this opportunity by someone I trusted implicitly. And if he felt it was the right thing, this probably was the right thing. Decided, didn't want to stay in Ireland anymore. I'd been offered to stay and coach Ireland, but a couple of jobs around the world as well. And said, no, I want to actually go back and go teaching full time. And what I'd like to do is to run a rowing program myself, because I hadn't quite done the whole sort of head coach role, to prove to myself that I actually almost deserve what I'm doing now, being an Olympic coach, because I didn't think I quite deserved it. Decided we'd come to New Zealand, where they spoke a brand of English, says he with the Irish accent. I always found it myself when I went to regattas or training camps, I'd gravitate towards the New Zealanders for some reason. Got on quite well with them, and sort of same mentality, sort of an irreverent view of the world, and didn't take things too seriously. Christ College, this place, rang and said, hey, we got your CV. We're looking for a maths teacher and we're looking for a head of rowing. Do you want to do an interview tomorrow? I said, yeah, cool, great, let's do that. We did the interview, and they, rightly or wrongly in their wisdom or stupidity, offered me a job, and I started here, started 2005. Took up the reins of head coach, and we didn't have a manager at the time, so I was manager as well. Really, really learned from the ground up about how to run a rowing program. And it was all about the Maddie Cup. You got to win the Maddie Cup, you know. That's what we expect. I said, no, well, actually, what I'll expect is some good, honest kids to turn up and do some hard training, and we'll see where we go from there. Hey, Jamie, welcome to rowing. Actually, we won the Maddie Cup in the first year. They hadn't done that in about 5 or 6 years, so they were quite pleased. Good bunch of kids, mind you.
He was really laid back, but also quite empowering with the boys about sort of getting them to take ownership and creating like mutual respect and things like that. And the ethos has always stayed the same. It's actually about making good people when they leave the program, irrespective of whether they win a national title or pull 10 minutes on the rowing machine. As long as everyone has the same experience and they walk out of us better than what they were when they started, then actually that's our job done, right?
You know, like a train comes into the station, doesn't come charging in, it comes in and slows down, and then the passengers get off.
He works very, very hard at trying to find the best way to coach someone. And if he can't get someone right the first time, he will go away and consider how he's going to do it the next time he sees them.
He's good with people, you know, he made you feel comfortable. He was interested in you. I was terrible at maths, and he was a maths teacher, and he was probably the only maths teacher that got through to me. With rowing, with teaching, he was always, you know, a great mentor, and yeah, he's definitely helped me a lot during the years.
It's the challenges of helping those kids grow up is what makes us tick. It's quite a responsibility, actually, to be honest with you. I think as a teacher and a coach, you can stuff it up. I've seen people stuff it up badly. Got to try to be symmetrical. And kids have bad experiences in sport. And in classes as well, and I'd hate to think that some kid had a bad experience because of what, the way I approached them or the way I did things.
Tony's very lead by example. If he says to do something, he'll do it himself. We see it throughout the gym, he'll be down there doing call with us, sometimes beating us a wee bit.
He's sort of guided me through school and rowing at the same time because he's in my house at school, so he helps me with my homework, helps me with my rowing, just helps me throughout my school life.
Boys that have been through here, you can see them at Māori Cup or any other place, they'll meet them in the street and they'll cross the road to come and see him and go, "Hi Tony," and shake his hand, "How you going?" and have a good old laugh. It's words sort of, it's very hard to find words for them sometimes.
Rowing's just a really good medium to help kids grow up. I've always found that, and that's why I do it. Because that's the biggest win of all, is seeing kids grow from there to there, not just physically. Yeah. Good stuff, lads. Told you this is the hardest part of the whole year, this exam end of school period, because there's not a lot of structure in your life at the moment. It's a bit all over the place, but it's good. You're doing very well.
One of the key strengths of Tony is marrying his knowledge at the very top level of this sport and rowing, but also balancing it with knowing that they're still youth athletes and getting that mix, I think, on the money in terms of bringing his knowledge and his understanding to try and get the best out of them as 14 and 15-year-olds, not 25-year-old seasoned athletes, which he's trained as well and been one of.
You get the right answer. Do you see that?
Taught maths here and became a housemaster and immersed myself into the school and basically forgot about international rowing. No, that's a lie. I didn't forget about international rowing, but I certainly buried it deep down for a while. Yeah.
We were at Māori Cup and we were down setting up a boat, and next thing he gets a phone call, and it was somebody from Rowing New Zealand wanted to go and see him.
I got the phone call from Judith Hamilton, who was the new high performance director, and said, "Look, we have a men's 8 here and we need a coach."
He said, "I've just been asked to coach the men's 8. He said, "What do you reckon I should do?" And I said, "What do you mean? What do you think you should do?" I said, "Listen, mate, you only get the one chance in a million to do something like this. You grab it with both hands and run with it."
I wasn't comfortable with leaving home for what would have been a year and a half. But, a lot of people, but specifically the family, said, "No, you got to go and do it. And we'll support you." The 8 had actually been a project for quite a while, but it was almost on its last legs. And in fact had been officially disbanded until 2 characters by the name of Mahe Drysdale and Hamish Bond decided they wanted to resurrect it.
To be honest, I didn't really know what qualities Tony did bring to the table. Coming in without that history with him. James Lash, who was involved with our program at the time, and also our cox and Sam, they had gone through the Christ program, so they had more intimate knowledge of the way that Tony works, and they were certainly very supportive of the idea of getting him involved, so that was a big tick.
He'd proven he was a good coach, and whatever he did down south worked with those boys really well. But they're also schoolboys, and he's Irish. And this is the New Zealand rowing team. I couldn't work out why he was there.
Men's 8's bloody hard to coach. You have to be a specific type of crazy to take on a challenge like that. And who was this Irish guy? This Irish wizard that was going to come in and sort of change our lives.
I knew how successful he was himself, and then, obviously coaching me through school, and I've coached with him and learnt a lot from him coaching. Then I knew that he was up for the challenge.
That first day I met the boys and had a good chat with Hamish and Mahe, who were sort of the driving force behind it, and we kind of nutted out a few what they wanted and what I thought they needed, and it was quite relaxed. So yeah, that was the start of it all. But I was walking into it. I was quite nervous actually, because as you imagine, there was top class sports people. They're great, but they're a bit different. They're very driven people, And in some ways they can be quite, especially if they've had success before, very sure of what is required. And I've never subscribed to that. I think anyone can change, and you should try and change deliberately to see what happens.
For him, I think he found it quite easy. He's just like, yeah, there's a bit of pressure, but he's like, I'm not going to treat you any differently to how I treat my athletes down in Christ College and the kids I teach in Christ College. And so I think that served him really well.
There was an underlying theme of, we'll certainly listen to what you have to say and we're going to get in this boat with you, so to speak. And he just sort of fostered that component, and yeah, he gelled everyone really well together.
Some coaches come in and they've got their tactics for how they're going to, you know, break down athletes and build them back up. And Tony just came in just wanting to get to know us, asked us how we're going. How's life? How's rowing going? We learned a little bit more about Tony and his history of performing as a rower and as a coach, history and teaching. And as the sort of puzzle pieces start to fall into place, as you get to know him, you're like, holy hell, this is a uniquely caring and driven individual that you could see it was like the perfect match for handling the madness which was the New Zealand Men's 8.
I took him out on the water the first time, and we had a squad of about 12 at the time. And I said, look, like any coach, I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to watch and observe, and we might have a chat afterwards. And they got about 500 meters up the lake, and I said, stop, you can't, what are you doing? You know, I said, half of you doing one thing, and then the other half are doing something else, and then the other half are doing something else. You all seem to have different ideas about technically how to row. And we need to come to some agreement over what our fundamentals are. And it was obvious as that to me straight off that there were different ideas about it. Because they'd come in from different boats, some of them being the eight, Hamish had been in the pair, Matt had been in the single, and they all had different ways that worked. And there's no right way or wrong way, but if you're, you know, you need a way, and we had to decide on that. I mean, that was quite cool, because at least now, you know, they all said, oh, yeah, fair enough, that makes sense. So that put me in a position that I started to give them some ideas and maybe tease out something that might work. Yeah, which took a while, yeah.
Obviously Hamish came in and it was a big driving point for him to try, you know, achieve that, 72 again. Men's 8 hadn't been on the podium for a long time. But he did have to obviously make a massive change. Rowing a pair is very different to rowing an 8.
And Hamish had considered himself, he was going to be the stroke of the boat. And that didn't work, and that was awful. So we moved him back 2 seats to the same side, the stroke side. So he went back to the 6th seat, and that was a little bit better, but still pretty crap. And then he went back to the 4th seat, and that was better again. And finally he ended up in the 2 seat, where he was out of everybody's way. And he said, this is way better back here, and it was much better as well.
Me personally, I had some learning to do on how to be most effective in the 8, and that took quite a long time. And as much as it was Tony, it was the other guys all sort of collectively getting an understanding of how to move an 8.
You could feel that he had faith in us, real belief that he's like, your problem is not how hard you work. You know, your problem is how you're doing it together. It's all these little things, your team culture, that really line up, that mean that you can't go as fast as what you could go. And so I think he identified that pretty early on.
We started with them in April 2019. And the World Championships were in August, which was not long. And we had to come in the top 5. Every Olympic sport, as you know, has got a qualification now since 92 or 96. And we had to come in the top 5 of the World Championship final. And that was a tough ask. I think the previous year they had come last at the World Champs, so 8th or 9th or 10th or something. And we went to Austria and we made the final. And I was thinking, surely, because we had some good performances. We're a bit inconsistent that year, though. Some was brilliant, some was appalling. And of course, the final was one of the latter, and we didn't qualify by half a second.
Germany world champs again. Netherlands in silver medal. What a great performance. Britain in bronze. Australia in fourth. Well, USA in 5th and New Zealand miss out Olympic qualifying place at the back of the field. I almost forgot about that, guys. So exciting was that race.
We had just lost, and yet Tony's in tears and apologising. Tony took it all on himself. He had let us down, and that's quite a strong thing to realise in somebody that is your coach and your mentor and guiding you, that he's really doing it for the right reasons, is that he just wanted the best for us, and if we couldn't do that, he was as much part of the loss as what we were.
I think we also just got to bring to everyone's attention that it was New Zealand who were pushed back into 6th place. That huge project, bringing in Hamish Bond, bringing in Mahe Drysdale, and the 8 has ended up in 6th place, so they will have to make a decision about what they do about Tokyo qualification.
We've been told, you know, if you don't qualify this time round, you're not going to get a second chance, and there is a second chance. There's a regatta in Switzerland, the final Olympic qualifier, but it takes place only 2 months prior to the Games. And Rowing New Zealand do not have a history of sending crews to that, mainly because of cost. It's a lot to expect to train a group who hadn't qualified the first time to have a go the second time, and only 2 crews qualify from that regatta. So I think a lot of the boys expected that was it, curtains. And in fact, some of them said to me that even, I'm retiring now, it's all over. But I wasn't ready for that, you know, at all. And decided on the flight home that even though we hadn't qualified, we were very, very close to it. And not only were we only half a second, we were only 2 seconds off a bronze medal. So the spread of the field was really tight. We just happened to be in the wrong end of that. But we were a lot closer to medals than crews who had qualified. So with that argument, we went back to Row New Zealand, and they listened to us and said, no, you can continue, which was a huge step for them, financially and all sorts of ways. A lot of people thought we shouldn't have continued with that project. After we didn't qualify in 19, Mahe decided to go back in the single again to try to qualify the single for the Olympics. In fact, he made that decision, not to continue with the 8. We got a couple of young lads up from under-23 team, and a lad came in from America as well.
One of the guys, Dan Williamson, who was the youngest guy in our crew actually, he had won back-to-back IRA titles, which is the American National Champs for Yale University. So he was sort of one of the guys who had the most recent success in winning sort of big 8s races.
Tom Murray and Mike Brake were the New Zealand pair who had won a silver medal at those World Championships and were aiming to go on. And we saw it as instrumental that they were part of the 8 if we wanted the best people. We hadn't a big squad, we needed the best people. And Hamish was quite forceful there. He had chats with them. Tom McIntosh in particular, one of the younger guys, came to me one day and said, look, I think we can do things a lot better. Do you mind if I get up in front of the group and say it? And I do remember the day he just stood up in front. He said, look, I'm only 22, I've done nothing, I've won nothing, but I really want us to be the best we can be, and I don't think we are the best we can be. I don't think we're fully professional athletes. We are in name only. And I said the same. I said, look, listen lads, we've been given an opportunity here now, and first thing I want to do is apologise to you, because I don't think I was good enough over the last year. And I realised that, and if you'll allow me, I want to make things better, but we have to be utterly honest with each other.
Everyone's ideas were valued and incorporated into how we worked as a team. If, I guess, the most junior member of our team had something that they wanted to say to me, being the most senior athlete, or Tony being the coach, there was never any roadblock or, I suppose, seniority or a shutting down of ideas. And that was something that Tony really emphasised throughout the campaign, was if people's ideas are made to feel valued, then they have further buy-in. And I think that was something that was a hallmark of our approach.
Obviously Hamish comes in and his opinion carries weight because of his accomplishments. But then you look at younger guys like Matt McDonald, T-Mac, Phil and Dan, and you're like, well, these guys are pretty damn impressive in what they can do. These guys are really, really good athletes. And I think there's that recognition that they are that good. They've proven themselves, and we encourage them to say what they felt about the 8.
Every bit of brain power that we can use to get this boat going as fast as possible will be used. And if you've got an idea, you better share it, because if we can get the smallest contribution from each person that is meaningful for the speed of the 8, then that's a win.
We got to the stage and it was liberating stuff, you know, hair on the back of your neck stuff. Any of us could say anything to anybody about anything at any time. You know, we had tears, like every team does, tears in front of each other. And, but it was very, very special. Yeah, really special group of guys. But that took a while for that to grow. But once we had that, and you know, the word culture is bandied about. It wasn't really a culture, it was just who these people had turned into. Open, honest, demanding, expecting, hard-working humans. And once we all saw that, it was very tight. That was one of the most special things about it. People opening up and people being honest to each other. That's hard for blokes to do. And especially it's hard for top athletes to do, because they think they know it all.
When the 8 didn't qualify in 2019, it seemed like that was going to be the end of the 8 for the Olympic cycle. Then COVID hit, and it made going over to Lucerne in the middle of a pandemic even less feasible to qualify boats.
That's when you realise who was doing the sport for the right reasons, because you're training in a garage by yourself for a year. People were understandably wanting to stop. I wanted to stop. The people that continued on and got better during that time were quite inspirational. Those were the ones that were doing it for the right reason.
They sat everyone down, support staff, athletes, coach, Tony, and they said, if anyone doesn't want to go on this campaign, you can say so now. And if you do go, know that if you get COVID, we don't have a way of getting you back. We'll support you and we'll find out how to get you back at some point, but there is currently no plan to get you home. Every athlete, and Tony as the coach, and we did have some support staff, they all said yes. Even one of the athletes who had kids, he was on board, and I think that was a true testament to the culture that Tony and the crew had built. To know that we were flying from New Zealand in the middle of the pandemic, which was a bit of an island of safety at that point, into this world with COVID, to the regatta of death, there was something pretty grim and daunting about doing that. And that was where Tony's Irish, calm, relaxed personality really brought some strengths to the table there. His, it's all right, boys, it doesn't matter, it's okay, we just do what we can do. That whole, that aura that Tony brought to the team, that helped a lot over in that part of the campaign.
When we arrived, the boat was going really well, and I think it just made us closer. We just took day by day. We got off from the heat, and our final was meant to be 2 days later, I think, and over the loudspeaker it said, right, it's going to be windy on finals day, we're going to do the finals tomorrow. Some people in the boat park, got a bit frightened about that, whereas we went, right, we're up for the challenge. And Tony said, look, it's just another hurdle, which we will overcome.
We still needed to peak for the Olympics, so going to this regatta is a bit of a risk because you need to be going fast enough to qualify, but then you don't want to reduce your training and peak too sharply because then you won't be able to ride that wave to the Olympics. So we sort of had a strategy within the crew. We said, guys, look, we're all fit, strong guys, and we want to be performing at the Olympics. We sort of believe we can still qualify running at about 90%, and so that was a decision that we made as a crew. Which could have been quite an awkward one for some people, but again, a testament to Tony. He made it just seem like it was just another simple, easy decision we had to make, and yeah, that's what we did.
We got there, did the business, thought we might. It wasn't arrogance, it was just, we know we're a good crew. And we won that.
Our sole purpose was obviously to qualify for the Olympics. So to have ticked that off and go home with what we came to get is really satisfying.
Yeah, we haven't raced internationally in 2 years since 2019, so coming out and getting a bit of experience allows us to set more realistic expectations for the Olympics.
We had no spectators and you couldn't really interact with anyone because of the fear of transmitting or contracting the virus. So we qualified for the Olympics in isolation and there was no one there to kind of like celebrate with us.
We came back 6 weeks to go, I think, something like that, before we were due to go to Tokyo. We had to go into quarantine for 2 weeks up in the Commodore Hotel, and each boy had one rowing machine.
We took all our Row Perfect gear down to them and we pushed it into the hotel so the boys had something to row on.
Everybody on the planet thought, we haven't a hope now because you're off the water for 2 weeks and everybody else is going to race and train, and you know. And we made a conscious decision that if we found ourselves in that position, we would make the very, very best of it.
We were all on Zoom, and so we could see everyone. We were just suffering together in separate rooms on Zoom, and there's a video of Dan just vomiting into a bucket after a hard session.
We knew that we would have lost boat feel. That's only natural, not being in the boat for 2 weeks. But physiologically, we'd been on a rowing machine twice a day, an average of 2.5 hours a day for 14 days in a row. We had numbers in front of us, so we knew the amount of output that we were sustaining, and we knew that it was good.
So we did that for 2 weeks and got out. We went back to Carapiro, got back late that evening, and the discussion was, would we go out now for a spin or go out tomorrow morning? And it was about 10 o'clock and everyone just went, no, we're going now. And they went out and the thing just took off. It hadn't missed a beat. And that was the first time I actually thought, we might actually do okay at this regatta, this little regatta in Tokyo.
We compare ourselves by percentage world best time to the women's 8 over practice pieces that we'd do on Carapiro. And with this combination, we were probably on average 1.5% behind the women's 8. And they were a gold medal crew.
Everything we did, we compared ourselves to women, both on and off the water. They, you know, the way they approached training, the way they did their warm-ups, to everything. But then on the water as well, we would do timepieces twice a week and we would look at our percentage of world record time. And the only crew we were interested in was the women's pair or the women's 8. And we started slowly and surely get closer and closer and closer.
We agreed as a crew, well, we should go and try another seating arrangement to see if we can go any faster. And we tried a few, we experimented with 4 or 5 and we found one more and we thought, sweet, this is it. This is better than what we just had. We're now comfortably within 1% of the women's 8 consistently. This is it. And Tony goes, oh, what about that? And we go, what do you mean, what about that? Who cares? We've got a good combination now.
So we changed myself to the bow and then Tom Murray to 3. And yeah, I love the bow. It was sort of a dream come true rowing in that seat for me. Everything was right and it was the right fit for me.
It did take that 2 years of tinkering and we finally established what seats we're going to sit in. And I find I do that anyway as a coach. I do it here in school, but even right to the last moment, because people change, you know? People change the way they row, their flexibility, their mentality, and you've got to be flexible and move people around and not be fixated on something. A lot of people get really worried about that. Our high performance director thought, we haven't got a clue what we're doing because we keep swapping people. I said, no, it's part of the plan. I want to find the best combination. Got to Tokyo, I had the best moment ever. I watched the boys rowing and thought, this is cool, we've done everything right. I'd always come back from games before going, what if, and if only, and I could have, and I should have. That was the best moment ever I've had as a coach, knowing that finally, I feel like we have done a good job.
Away we go then in the second heat in the men's 8 at the Tokyo Olympic Regatta 2020. New Zealand, top of your picture. They go in lane 1, final Olympic qualifying regatta winners.
And of course we get to Tokyo and stop up the first race. We didn't really stuff it up, but it was, you know, it was like when you play golf and you address the ball and you swing a bit hard and it scoots off there. You tense up a little bit and you miscue the kick. It was just like that. The rhythm was just not there, just trying a bit hard, a little bit nervous actually.
The Dutch coming up to the line, set to bag the one automatic qualifying place to go into the A final in the men's 8. And the Kiwis are going to come in second, Britain down in third.
The boys rowed into to pontoon to take the boat off, and I was watching them and I thought they're going to be a bit disappointed now. And they were just giggling and laughing and splashing water, and they were like school kids. And I said, what are you guys so pleased about? And they said, yeah, we know where we went wrong. It's obvious.
So we sat down as a crew and said, look guys, we haven't even made the final. We have to go through the repechage. We can race how we race in the heat, and we might make the final, and we might scrape in for a bronze medal. Or let's take it back to basics. The things that we'd ingrained on Lake Karapiro and elements we'd found in Biwa, the style of rowing, the rhythm, the sublime, the cohesion, the power output, the synchronicity, the synergy, whatever you want to call it, and let's commit to that.
You can learn a lot from a defeat, and they did. I mean, if we had scraped through on that heat, we wouldn't have addressed those issues. Maybe not to the same extent, but we did address it because we were honest. And the next day they went out and had the best row they'd ever had. You know, Sean Kirkham talks about that row, and he'll talk about it till the day he dies. It was the quickest, easiest, most effective, magical row he's ever been in. And then they went to the repechage and just did the business.
Oh, they've gone off like a rocket here, the Brits.
Just outside world's best time pace, which was 1:18 through the 500, the Brits.
And about 600 metres into the race, we weren't on this rhythm, and our coxswain, Sam Bosworth, yells at us like, drive down onto the rhythm. And we did, and we honestly just motored away from the rest of the field. We were underrating them by like 2 beats, and I felt good doing it.
Sensational move by the New Zealanders. That is not supposed to happen in men's 8.
We call it the big boy rhythm. That's what we used to call it. And yeah, we found that big boy rhythm. We found, you know, what we needed to do, just giving it plenty of time up the slide, and then as soon as that blade's in the water, just absolutely standing on it.
New Zealand rode through the Brits, and they're going to win this repechage. Great Britain going through in second place.
We finished the race and I wasn't even tired. I just felt amazing. I felt like Superman.
The other crews collapsed across the line and were hanging out of the boat, and the boys just rode on. Didn't even stop, didn't even breathe hard. And they were only a couple of seconds off the world record.
I think that's the fastest an NZ men's 8's gone, so we're pretty proud of that. But there's work to be done. There's still 2 crews that qualified ahead of us in some way in the heat, so that was a good step on from our heat, but we've still got work to do.
The men's 8 to be in the Olympic final. We've got a really talented crew, and it's all up for the taking on Friday.
I had a pretty good feeling that they wouldn't stuff up. I didn't really think about winning or lose, but you, as a coach, you do get an inkling. And if I was really honest with myself, I would have thought they're going to do well today. But then you try to get rid of that thought out of your mind, because that's jinxing it.
Pre-race, while we're warming up, for us we've reached a point now where there's no point being nervous. There's no time to be nervous. We need to follow the process and warm up, and we're quite focused at this point. And with that level of focus, the nerves start to calm. I think the opposite could probably have been said for Tony at that point, because the moment we're warming up and we're starting to get into that routine for racing, his job's pretty much done. There's not a lot more that he could do to help us at that point.
The boys were quite relaxed, I must say. Warm-up was good. What they don't know, 1 hour before the race, I got them to put the boat down on trestles. So I give it the cursory, customary coach polish, because the coach has nothing else to do, so might as well wash the boat again for the 10th time. And the fin that's underneath the boat, is, and it was a special fin we got made from England. and it's a 2-part laminated carbon fibre thing. And I went down the boat and I got to the fin, and the fin was like that. It had split in two. And this was 30 minutes before they were meant to get on the water. Now, for the grace of God, I don't know how I managed to see it or even decide to clean the boat again, because if they had gone out with that, they would have come last by a long, long way. So lucky enough, the boat manufacturer was just over there, and he's an Italian guy, he likes a drink, and he comes over and he looks at it and he goes, "We will not have a drink now, we will have a drink afterwards." And he got straight into it. And it had literally just walked away from it when the boys came down to pick up. I said nothing. I was pale, you know, because that would have been the end of it. So when he fixed it, coach and me thought, no, it's going to be fine. They'll do okay. And then, of course, the side that's absolutely shitting yourself on the other side, saying, "I wish it was anywhere but here." And I do remember pushing them off and going, "Thank God I didn't stuff that up."
New Zealand won one of the 2 qualification spots. I suppose they'll be outsiders in this Olympic final, but you never know. They had a stunning gold all the way back in Munich in '72. So away we go then in the men's 8 final, the last race at the Olympic rowing regatta at Tokyo 2020. It's a nice flat start there. Who's got the edge? Is that the Germans?
I think the Germans are out quick. They have a 2 or 3 metre lead over the British. Kiwis moving fast. Look at the Kiwis to the left of the Germans, that green boat, the all-black boat of Kiwis, number 2. Where have they got that boat speed from? They're right up on the quickest on the course at the moment, 22.7 kilometres an hour. The Germans at 22 kilometres an hour. Netherlands at 22.7, and the Kiwis going to hit the front. If they hit the front now, they've got a great third quarter as well, and the Germans will have to now dig in to hold them off. Wow, what a race from New Zealand. Did you see the way they moved back on the Germans there? Sensational coming through. Will the disappointing regatta for the British be about to end? Will they break Kiwi hearts in this third quarter? Look at the Kiwis, Andy, look at them go. Wow, that is amazing. They've just taken third of a length of the British, like the British are standing still. Germany can't go with them. Kiwis showing their traditional fast third quarter.
Where have New Zealand found this pace? At the 1500 metre mark, it's New Zealand from Great Britain by the looks of things. New Zealand have turned on the afterburners.
There's Hamish Bond going down the boat for New Zealand. What a crew this is. Got the 22-year-old Matt McDonald in the stroke seat. Big call from Tony O'Connor to put the North Shore oarsman in the stroke seat, but he's showing back. But Britain are coming now. Again on New Zealand, where have they found that pace from? Kiwis have still got around about, what, 3/4 of a second lead. Hamish Bond digging in, showing all the form that took him to 2 Olympic gold medals. Kiwis are stretching out. It's going to be New Zealand's gold to lose. 1972 on the Munich course when the Kiwis last won Olympic gold in the men's 8s. This is going to write that story large again.
And their 3rd gold medal in the rowing, first for the men here at Tokyo 2020. It's the Kiwis coming up to the line.
Arms in the air from Sam Bosworth, the 27-year-old Cox from the Avon Club. And if you're watching this in New Zealand, how sweet does that feel, guys?
I asked Bondi, I said, "Have we won?" And he goes, "Yes." And I'm like, shit.
You know, just pure satisfaction. It had been an up and down journey, obviously, going to the last chance qualifying regatta, the whole COVID situation, a lot of unknown and uncertainty, and, you know, daring to dream and to take on a challenge that at the start of that challenge you would have said had maybe a 1% chance of success.
Uncontrollable emotion that we had actually finished the race, let alone won.
Had a quick chat as they got out of the boat, and then they went off to get their medals and the national anthem and all that. And at that stage, actually, for some reason, everybody else went to watch it, and I turned around and I went the other way, and walked into the cafe and there was nobody there. So I made myself a cup of tea and sat down, and that was very nice. Nice cup of tea actually. And I missed the whole medal ceremony, but I didn't need to be there actually. That was their moment, not anything to do with me.
The way that he composed himself after the race and pushed for us to have the focus and have the limelight on ourselves, and for him to not be a part of it, it shows his character, for starters, that he wants us to enjoy it, and he didn't want to interfere. I wish he had, because he was very much an equal part of the team. He just didn't have a role in the boat, but that's just who he is. Within about 40 minutes after we got back from the podium, him and I were sitting in the food hall together, and Tony goes, "I don't suppose I can have a photo with your medal, can I?" And I was like, holy shit, that's cool. Absolutely, you can have a photo with this medal. You could see how much it meant to him, not just from achieving that result himself through his coaching and everything he'd committed and sacrificed for it, but for the people that he'd invested in. You could see how much it meant to him to enable people to be able to achieve that and experience that themselves.
The all-black boat of Kiwis #2, where have they got that boat speed from?
We've got that from hard training in Carapiro, that good boat speed. Went down the boat and I got to the fin, and the fin was like that. It had split in two. This was 30 minutes before they were meant to get on the water.
You're joking.
Yeah, shit. Oh well, that was lucky.
The cheeky bugger. Why hasn't he told us that earlier?
It's probably a good thing he didn't.
Well, I guess that's revelation. You know, I guess that epitomizes Tony, you know, just make sure what's best for us, and I guess what you don't know won't hurt you.
Oh God, thank God for Tony O'Connor.
The way that he moulded 8 individuals together and collectively harnessed that ability, but didn't diminish the individual quirks that made people who they were, and allowed their individual qualities to shine through even though you're in a team unit.
You could just feel the genuineness of why he was here and what he wanted to achieve, and just the way he went about it. It was egoless. It was all for us.
He was a nice guy who we all got along with really well, and he could coach rowing on the side.
I'm proud of what we achieved and what Tony achieved, and I certainly think he belongs up there beside, you know, really some of the great coaching names of international rowing.
Awesome for us to see that, really. You know, someone from college getting out there and competing on the world stage and winning. Pretty cool. He's got all these offers and comes back to coach us. I hope it's because we're good sort of boys to be around.
Amazing to have him from school level right through to the Olympics. He has been awesome, you know, as part of my kind of career progression, so I can't really thank him enough.
He's a very genuine, loyal person. You know, I could follow him to the end of the earth. He's a tremendous bloke, tremendous human being.
The amount of times he'd come up to you and ask, "How are you?" and you'd be like, "Oh, I'm tired." And he'd be like, no, how are you? You know, is everything all good? That's such a strong strength of his coaching, was the amount that he willingly invested emotionally in the people that was on the journey with him.
You know, if they think that I had some little part to play in who they became in a positive way, hell, that's wonderful, isn't it? That puts the hairs up in the back of your neck, when much more so than medals. That's special. I'm just glad I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. I'll try to keep doing it, you know, as best I can.